We're continuing the Maimer Alpayim Shana Kdama Torah L'Olam that the Rebbe said on the second day of Shavuos Tafshin Yud Aleph. The question that we just asked is why, when the Chachamim, when the Gemara want to talk about the greatness of Torah, they use the pasuk Va'eya Shashuim Yoim Yoim, which is 2 days, 2,000 years, and the fact that the Torah superseded the world by 2,000 years. Something that we explained to mean not 2,000 years because there was no time then, but rather that the Torah is above the world 2,000 levels. Meaning more specifically 2 levels of Elef. The teaching, Chachma and Bina, which is the 2 moichin, the intellectual faculties, which are above the world. Being that Midas are the Sheishes Yamim Asa Avaya, the 6 days that are connected to the actual creation of the world, whereas moichin is above the world. Torah is connected to moichin, it's above the world, it's beyond the world. Now the way we understood this is that this means that Torah is in essence something which is beyond the world. It's above the whole concept of the world, which is why we're connecting it to Meichin, something which a person has for themselves, not for others. And based on that, the question of the Maimer is, why then do we start with the words? Why then do we talk about the greatness of Torah by the fact of Meichin, talk about something even deeper? The beginning of the pasuk, which talks about the fact that the Torah is etzloi by Hashem, it's something which is even above Meichin. It's totally connected to the oneness of Hashem. And in order to explain even more what is the Maila of Amain, so the Rebbe first asked a question that seemingly the idea of Amain, one can say, is something that's connected to the world. It's not fully above the world, because the Chazal explained Amay means that the Torah says Ani Ayisi Kli Umnasei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Torah says I was the tool that Hashem used to create the world, meaning it's a tool of creation. It is connected to the world. So this isn't the ultimate greatness of Torah that it's above and beyond the world. It's something which is above the world. And so the Rebbe explained, no. The tool with which Hashem created the world, which is the Torah, can be explained in one of 2 ways. One way is that in the world itself, every aspect of the world has 2 parts to it. There's the matter, the chaymer, and the form, the tzura. The matter of something is its existence. The fact that it exists. That existence on its own is really nothing. Because imagine you have chaymer without tzura, you have matter without form. There's no taste, no size, no way that it looks, no color, no volume, etc. That's nothing. On the other hand, what's form? Form is not a physical thing. Form is merely the way that it is formed, the way that it expresses itself. And those 2 things is what everything of the world has. And we know that Chassidus tells us that Yichaymer, the matter of the world, is created b'dvar havaya, with the word of Hashem. The word of Hashem, like the words of a person that are spoken to someone else, make something happen. Make something exist, make the matter of the world exist. The tzura, the form of the world, is created with chayfetz, with Hashem's desire. It's not something which is an existence, a reality, and therefore it's merely the desire that creates the form of how it is formed, how the world is formed. Which means that nothing really is an existence other than Hashem, because even what was created with speech on its own, it's nothing. What makes it become an existence? The fact that it expresses itself in a certain shape, a certain size, volume, etc., etc. And that is from the desire of Hashem. That desire of Hashem, which creates the form, which means this that shows the reality of the world being nothing but an existence of Hashem, that's what the Torah is, the tool that creates that. In other words, the tool of the Torah, the Amayim, the tool of the Torah isn't something which is connected to the world, but rather connected to beyond the world, to the reality that everything, to the ability to show and to express that the reality of the world is also nothing but godliness. And similarly, the second way that the Rebbe explains it is that since the existence of something from nothing can only come from the essence of Hashem, because only something that doesn't come from anything that preceded it can create something from nothing, and that's the essence of Hashem. That's not even any spiritual powers, because any spiritual energy, no matter how high it is, came from something else. That essence of Hashem, that is the Torah that created the world. In other words, this Amun is actually the meaning of what we mean when we say the Torah is the tool that created the world, and what we get from the fact that the Torah is above and beyond the world. The fact that the Torah is that which reveals, that which expresses and allows us to realize that the only thing that exists is beyond any existence. There's only Hashem, and the Torah reveals that in the world as well. In order to get that, you need something which is above the world. So that's the greatness of Hayat Yamin. Why then do we want to talk about the Torah being the intellect? Why then do we want to talk about the Torah being Yom Yom, regardless of the fact that intellect is also not limited into the fact that it should express itself in the world like emotions are, but nevertheless, it's something. It's an existence. It's not the purity of Hayat Yamin. And so in order to explain this, the Rebbe begins by explaining the various levels that there are. And it gets to be quite involved. So we'll try and explain it slowly. And if it takes we'll take 2 or 3 classes, Be'ezras Hashem. We'll try and explain it to the best of the ability that we can. Let's look at the Pasuk. Psukim in Mishlei. Vayat le'amin, the Torah says, I was by Hashem. The word is by Hashem. Amin means greatness. Rashi explains it means greatness, something great. The Torah says, I was the greatness of Hashem. And in addition, what Chassidus explained, and as we mentioned last time or earlier, that the word Ehyeh means will be. I will be. Now, even though in diktuk, grammatically, we can explain that the Vav changes it to past tense, but according to the Zohar, it means future, which means that the full expression of this idea will only be in the future when Mashiach comes. And I was, or I will be, Shashuim, the pleasure, the plaything, so to speak, of Hashem, day and day, Misachekes Lefanav B'chaleis, playing before Him, which means what is plaything at all times. And the next pasuk, Misachekes B'sei B'lartzei, playing within the universe, which is His land, Shashuayas the Adam, and my pleasure together with people. 2 things we see before even going into understanding the specifics. And as we mentioned last time, that Shashuim, which means the pleasure of Hashem, is mentioned twice. Once by Yom Yom, and once by Shashuayas B'nei Adam. The first level is Etzloi, by Him. And so Chassidus explains the following. Let's look at what the Torah is. Let's look at the different aspects of the Torah. And as we mentioned last time, the Torah, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Perek Gimel, the Torah is like water. Just like water comes down from a high place to a low place, so also the Torah, the essence of the Torah is that it descends from the high place, from its honorable place, where it is totally one with Hashem, beyond and above any connection to a physical existence. From there, the whole purpose, that's what Matan Torah means. Hashem gave the Torah to us down here, that it should come into our world, into a physical world where the Torah deals with physical aspects, where the Torah deals with physical things to the extent of the Torah being all of it, most of it, talking about mitzvahs, practical mitzvahs, which are all physical things in the physical world, in order that we, with our thought, speech and action, should be able to grasp this essence of Hashem, which is the Torah, the way it comes down into the physical world, and also the way it expresses itself in ink, on parchment, in a physical manner, in the letters of the Torah. Let's take this idea of where it goes now. In order to go there, the Torah goes through, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, in Seiser HaMadrega, in the levels that it goes one after the other. The word the Alter Rebbe uses is Seiser HaMadrega. Seiser HaMadrega, as explained in the Chassidus, means steps that are hidden. What are hidden steps? That's what we call a spiral staircase. What's known in Yiddish as Schwindeltreppe. Schwindeltreppe meaning false steps. Why are they false? Because usually when you go up steps, you see how many steps there are until you get up to the top. When you take a spiral staircase, each step, you think this next step is the top. And that's why it's called Seiser HaMadrega. It's hidden. Usually in steps, there's a bunch of steps, which is like a chain of cause and effect. In a chain, the first link of the chain and the last link of the chain, no matter how far away they are from each other, are still connected in some sense. Whereas in this case, in the spiral staircase, in the hidden steps, each one connects only to the one above it. That's how far and distant it is from the next level. So the levels that the Torah comes down is one level to the next, but not from one level to the next. Each level is a total tzimtzum, a total condensing the Torah from one level to the next until it comes down to the world. Now this this pasuk of Va'ei Etzli is actually expressing the different levels, or the general levels that the Torah comes through one after the other until it's finally able to come into the physical world. And it starts off with Va'ei Etzli Amen, the highest level of the Torah, where the Torah is by Hashem, where the Torah is one with the essence of Hashem. It is the greatness of Hashem, the expression of Hashem Himself. That's Va'ei Etzli, by Him, near Him, in the highest possible level where the Torah is the essence of Hashem, beyond the world. And when it's expressed in the world, as we said earlier, the Torah in this way, it shows the world how it doesn't have an existence, how its entire existence, how its true existence is Atzmas, the essence of Hashem. Comes the next level, Va'ei Etzli Shashuim. Not Va'ei Etzli Shashuim, sorry, Va'ei Shashuim Yoin Yoin, where the Torah says, now I am Shashuim, the pleasure of Hashem, in the intellect. That's the way the Torah comes down a level. And it's now in a level that it's expressed in intellect, but not yet in a way that it connects to the world. And as we mentioned earlier, the Rebbe said in the Maimon, that by a person needs intellect for himself. Emotions is for someone else. Intellect is what a person does for themselves. Hashem doesn't need intellect for Himself. With Hashem, the fact that there's the idea of intellect means it's Hashem, so to speak, expressing the Torah in in an expression of intellect, so that eventually it can come down into the world, into the emotional attributes, etc. in the world. But where it's expressed in intellect, it's still above the world, but it's already a level that it's come into in order to eventually be able to be expressed in the world. And that's why in this level it's called shashuim, the pleasure. Where does Hashem's pleasure express itself? In the first sense, where he's already showing the fact that he's beginning to bring the Torah into an expression so that it can eventually be expressed in the world. And that's the idea of Chachma and Bina in the practical sense. By a person, Chachma and Bina, wisdom and understanding, they express a person's pleasure, even though pleasure is above wisdom and understanding. But it's only with wisdom and understanding that the pleasure is able to be expressed. And like we see in a person, that Chachma, it says, Tzavu panav shel when a person finds a new idea, a new concept, his face shines with pleasure. And even more than that, when someone understands something, there's pleasure, because it's brought out from concealment, it's brought out into revelation. Which means Torah, it says, we say that the Torah is michachma nafkes, it comes out of wisdom, because it's above wisdom. But when it's expressed in wisdom, and specifically in understanding, that's when there's the pleasure, and like we'll explain and continue with Hashem's help, as Hashem tomorrow.